What if everything you believed about growing vegetables was completely wrong? Most gardeners assume that planting directly in the ground always produces the best results. More soil, more space, more room for roots. It sounds like the obvious formula for a bigger harvest. It sounds logical, but surprisingly, 12 common vegetables actually grow better in pots than they ever do in the ground. They produce higher yields, develop stronger root systems, resist disease more effectively, and in some cases, deliver harvests so abundant that even experienced gardeners are genuinely shocked by the results. And if you're still planting these vegetables directly in the ground, you may be unintentionally limiting every single harvest you've ever grown. Hit that like button right now if that surprises you. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss discoveries like this, and share this video with every gardener in your life who needs to see it. And before we dive in, drop the name of your city in the comments below. We love seeing just how far this incredible gardening community reaches around the world. That's because container gardening gives home growers something planting in the ground often cannot. Control. You control the soil quality, the drainage, the sunlight exposure, and the exact nutrients your plants receive. Poor native soil can't sabotage your harvest. Invasive roots from nearby plants can't compete for resources. Waterlogged ground can't rot your vegetables from below. And when the seasons shift, you can simply move your containers to safety. It's precision growing, and for certain vegetables, that precision doesn't just match what the ground offers. It completely surpasses it. In today's video, we're counting down 12 vegetables that actually grow better in pots than in the ground. And these aren't just, they'll survive in containers vegetables. These are varieties that genuinely thrive, outperform, and in many cases produce bigger, healthier harvests when given the right pot and the right setup. Stay until the end, because the number one vegetable on this list can produce a full, restaurant-quality harvest in a single 5-gallon bucket. No garden bed, no yard, no in-ground space required whatsoever. Let's get started. At number 12, we have radishes. Most people picture radishes as a quick ground crop you scatter across a garden bed and forget. But surprisingly, container growing often produces crispier, more flavorful radishes than in-ground planting ever could. Here's why. Garden soil is rarely ideal. It compacts, develops hard layers, and harbors pests that force radishes to grow misshapen and tough. Pots solve that immediately. Loose, well-draining container mix lets radishes expand perfectly and evenly. The result is smoother, rounder, more marketable radishes every single time. Sometimes the secret to a perfect radish isn't more garden space. It's better soil control. Moving down to number 11, we have lettuce. Most people picture lettuce as a sprawling ground crop needing wide, open garden rows. But surprisingly, container growing often produces more tender, more flavorful lettuce than in-ground planting ever could. Here's why. Garden soil frequently harbors slugs, beetles, and compaction problems that force lettuce to grow bitter and bolted. Pots eliminate that problem immediately. You control moisture, temperature, and drainage precisely. The result is consistently crisp, sweet leaves harvested weeks longer than ground crops. Sometimes the secret to better lettuce isn't a bigger garden bed. It's a smarter, more controlled growing environment. Coming in at number 10, we have spinach. Most people picture spinach as a cool season ground crop that bolts the moment temperatures rise. But surprisingly, container growing often extends spinach's productive season far longer than in-ground planting ever could. Here's why. Ground soil absorbs and retains heat unevenly, causing spinach roots to overheat and trigger premature bolting. Pots solve that immediately. You can relocate containers into shade during afternoon heat spikes, keeping roots consistently cool. The result is spinach that keeps producing tender, dark leaves weeks beyond what ground gardeners typically experience. Sometimes the secret to longer spinach harvests isn't better timing. It's simply having the freedom to move. At number 9, we have green onions. Most people picture green onions as something you casually tuck into spare ground space between other vegetables. But surprisingly, dedicated container growing produces far more abundant, more flavorful green onions than casual in-ground planting ever could. Here's why. Shared garden soil means competition for nutrients, uneven moisture, and persistent weed interference that forces green onions to grow thin and sparse. Pots eliminate that instantly. Concentrated nutrients and consistent watering encourage thick, vigorous stalks. The result is a virtually endless cut-and-come-again harvest right outside your kitchen door. Sometimes the secret to better green onions isn't more garden space. It's giving them their own dedicated home. Moving down to number 8, we have kale. Most people picture kale as a cold, hardy ground vegetable that practically grows itself anywhere you plant it. But surprisingly, container growing consistently produces more productive, more nutritious kale than in-ground planting ever could. Here's why. Garden soil often carries clubroot disease, cabbage worms, and drainage problems that force kale to underperform season after season. Pots remove those threats completely. Fresh, sterile container mix gives roots a clean, disease-free environment to establish aggressively. The result is noticeably darker, thicker, more nutrient-dense leaves from every single plant. Sometimes the secret to extraordinary kale isn't planting more of it. It's protecting every plant you already have. Coming in at number 7, we have bush beans. Most people picture beans as a ground crop needing long garden rows and plenty of open space. But surprisingly, bush beans in containers often outproduce in-ground plants by a significant margin. Here's why. Garden soil compaction, poor drainage, and soil-borne fungal diseases force bush bean roots to struggle before they even flower. Pots eliminate those obstacles completely. Loose, well-aerated container mix encourages explosive root development and faster flowering. The result is heavier pod production in a fraction of the space. Sometimes the secret to a better bean harvest isn't more row space. It's healthier roots from day one. At number 6, we have peppers. Most people picture peppers as demanding plants requiring deep, expansive garden beds and perfect native soil. But surprisingly, container-grown peppers frequently outperform in-ground plants in both yield and flavor. Here's why. Inconsistent ground soil temperatures slow pepper development significantly, delaying fruiting and reducing overall yields. Pots warm up faster and maintain consistent root zone temperatures throughout the growing season. The result is earlier fruiting, brighter colors, and noticeably sweeter, more intense pepper flavor in every single harvest. Sometimes the secret to exceptional peppers isn't a bigger garden. It's a warmer, more consistent root environment. Moving down to number 5, we have eggplant. Most people picture eggplant as a sprawling garden bed vegetable that demands enormous amounts of ground space to produce well. But surprisingly, container-grown eggplant regularly produces bigger, glossier, more flavorful fruit than in-ground plants ever do. Here's why. Eggplant is extremely sensitive to cold soil temperatures and poor drainage, two problems that plague in-ground gardens regularly. Containers warm quickly, drain perfectly, and maintain the consistent moisture levels eggplant roots absolutely crave. The result is faster fruit set, deeper color, and dramatically improved texture in every harvest. Sometimes the secret to stunning eggplant isn't more ground space. It's precise, consistent root zone management. Coming in at number 4, we have cucumbers. Most people picture cucumbers as sprawling ground vines needing wide open garden beds and endless horizontal space. But surprisingly, container-grown cucumbers trained vertically often outproduce traditional in-ground vines considerably. Here's why. Ground gardens expose cucumbers to soil-borne diseases, uneven watering, and pest pressure that cause bitter, misshapen fruit. Containers paired with a simple vertical trellis solve every one of those problems simultaneously. Improved airflow, consistent moisture, and clean soil produce straighter, crunchier, better-tasting cucumbers. The result is a cleaner, more productive harvest from a remarkably compact growing footprint. Sometimes the secret to more cucumbers isn't more ground. It's going vertical with total control. Breaking into the top 3, let's talk about tomatoes. Most people picture tomatoes as the ultimate in-ground garden crop, demanding deep beds, sprawling space, and rich native soil to produce well. But surprisingly, container-grown tomatoes frequently outperform in-ground plants in flavor, yield, and overall plant health. Here's why. Garden soil harbors blight, nematodes, and drainage inconsistencies that force tomato roots to battle disease before producing a single fruit. Pots eliminate that threat completely. Fresh container mix gives roots a clean, nutrient-rich environment from the very first day. The result is healthier plants, earlier fruiting, and noticeably richer, sweeter tomatoes every single season. Sometimes the secret to incredible tomatoes isn't more garden space. It's cleaner soil and smarter root control. At number 2, we have carrots. Most people picture carrots as strictly an in-ground vegetable, requiring deep, perfectly loose native soil to develop those long, straight, beautiful roots. But surprisingly, container growing produces straighter, sweeter, more consistently shaped carrots than most garden beds ever could. Here's why. Rocky, compacted, or clay-heavy ground soil forces carrot roots to fork, twist, and struggle downward, producing misshapen, tough, bitter results. Deep containers filled with light, sandy, perfectly loose mix give carrot roots absolutely nothing to fight against. The result is dramatically straighter, smoother, noticeably sweeter carrots that are easier to harvest and far more impressive at the table. Sometimes the secret to perfect carrots isn't finding better ground. It's simply removing every obstacle standing between the root and open space. And finally, taking the crown at number 1, potatoes. If there is one vegetable that truly seems designed for container growing, this is it. Most people picture potatoes as a crop requiring long trenches, mounded rows, and expansive ground space to produce any meaningful harvest. But surprisingly, container-grown potatoes routinely produce heavier, cleaner, more abundant yields than traditional in-ground methods ever deliver. Here's why. In-ground potato growing battles compacted soil, persistent drainage problems, and devastating soil-borne diseases like scab and blight that destroy entire harvests overnight. Containers eliminate every single one of those threats simultaneously. Fresh, loose, perfectly draining container mix gives potato tubers unlimited room to develop in every direction without resistance. The result is dramatically higher yields, cleaner skins, and disease-free potatoes harvested by simply tipping the container over. It's the perfect example of how container growing doesn't limit your potato harvest. Sometimes, a simple pot actually unlocks it completely. The biggest mistake many home gardeners make is assuming a large, open garden bed automatically produces the best vegetables. But sometimes, a well-chosen container creates far better growing conditions. Better drainage, better soil quality, better pest control, better temperature management, and far more flexibility than any fixed garden bed can ever offer. That's why so many vegetables actually thrive in containers. You don't need acres of yard space to grow an impressive, abundant harvest. Sometimes, a simple pot can outperform an entire garden bed. And once you experience how productive container gardening can become, you'll start seeing balconies, patios, doorsteps, and windowsills in a completely different way. Because successful gardening isn't always about having more land. Sometimes, it's simply about using every inch of space more intelligently.